we will broadcast for you the news in English on Radio Free Syria.
Welcome to our news hour in English. I am Marwan Kadro and I will be with you during this news hour from Radio Free Syria. We will start with the local coordination committees. By the end of Monday, the LCC managed to document 105 marches, including 4 women, 11 children, and 40 marchers under torture. 33 marches were reported in Damascus and its suburbs, 27 in Homs, most of them in Abel village, 14 in Aleppo, 11 in Idlib, 12 in Hama, 5 in Dar'a, 1 in Latakia, 1 in Raqqa, and 1 in the province of Deir ez-Zor. While the FSA has clashed with the regime forces in 103 points, by which the FSA liberated the last checkpoint present in Yadudiya town, Dar'a, and surrounded the military battalion in West Alma town, and in Aleppo it liberated a number of buildings belonging to the regime forces inside Saif ad-Dawla neighborhood and towered Zeno junctions and killed dozens of regime's army soldiers and captures others, while in Kafrin Buda in Hama it targeted a convoy that was heading to the countryside with a Grad missile, and in Ma'an the FSA killed a number of regime's thugs in an ambush set by them. And Ayyub Mosque was liberated along with the Red Crescent building in Saif ad-Dawla neighborhood in Aleppo, while in Homs the FSA has targeted a number of regime checkpoints in Jobar and Sultaniya neighborhoods and took control over the material and ammunition after the operation. In Damascus, the FSA targeted Special Forces headquarters in Qabun and targeted regime forces snipers buildings in Damascus Homs International Highway, while in Babila, Damascus suburbs, it attacked a number of gathering center of regime forces in Sidi Maghdad, and in Zabadani at the Aqaba checkpoint was targeted with mortar shells and killed of all members. General news now. According to Reuters, to applause from Arab heads of states, a few of Bashar al-Assad took Syria's vacant seat at the Arab summit on Tuesday, deepening the Syrian president's diplomatic isolation and diverting attention from opposition rifts. Speaking at the annual gathering of Arab leaders of states in the Gulf state of Qatar, Muaz al-Khatib said he had asked U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry for U.S. forces to help defend rebel-controlled northern parts of Syria with Patriot surface-to-air missiles. NATO swiftly rebuffed the idea. The insurgents have used weapons to counter Assad's helicopter gunships and warplanes. It was a historic meeting. You could feel the grandiose nature of the meeting, said opposition spokesman Yasser Tabbara. It's a first step towards acquiring full legal legitimacy. Al-Khatib said the United States should play a bigger role in helping end the 2-year-old conflict in Syria, blaming Assad's government for what he called its refusal to solve the crisis. I have asked Mr. Kerry to extend the umbrella of the Patriot missiles to cover the Syrian north, and he promised to study the subject. Al-Khatib said, referring to NATO Patriot missiles batteries sent to Turkey last year to protect Turkish airspace. We are still waiting for a decision from NATO to protect people's lives, not to fight, but to protect lives, he said. Responding to Al-Khatib's remarks, an official of the Western Military Alliance and its headquarters in Brussels said NATO has no intention to intervene militarily in Syria. NATO calls for an end to violence in Syria, which represents a serious threat to stability and security in the region. We fully support the efforts of the international community to find a peaceful solution, the official said. Michael Stephens, a researcher based in Qatar for Britain's Royal United Services Institute, said acceding to Al-Khatib's request will effectively put NATO at war with Damascus. Defensive employment. NATO's current deployment of 3 Patriot missiles batteries in eastern Turkey is intended to be purely defensive, shielding Turkey from possible attack from Syria. The Patriots are designed to shoot down hostile missiles in midair. Al-Khatib, a Sunni Muslim cleric, took Syria's chair at the summit for the first time, despite announcing on Sunday that he would step down as leader of the Syrian National Coalition. The Emir of Qatar, a strong supporter of the struggle to topple Assad, asked his fellow Arab leaders to invite the coalition delegation to represent Syria formally at the summit, despite the internal division plaguing the opposition. The Arab League suspended Syria in November 2011 in protest at its use of violence against civilians to kill dissent. In his opening speech, Qatar's Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani urged the UN Security Council to stop the oppression and repression of the people in Syria, halt the bloodshed, and present those responsible for these crimes against their people to international justice. The United Nations says about 70,000 people have been killed in a conflict that began with peaceful anti-Assad protests and turned into an increasingly sectarian armed insurrection. The war in Syria has divided world powers, paralyzing action at the Security Council. The Arab world is also split, with Saudi Arabia and Qatar the most fervent foes of Assad, and Iraq, Algeria, and Lebanon the most resistant to calls for his removal. Syrian rebels again fired mortars rounds into central Damascus on Tuesday. State television said several people had been wounded by terrorist mortar bombs that landed in the Syrian Arab news agency Sana compound in the Baramka district. In the attack followed a similar flurry of rebel mortar bombs that struck near to Opera House on Umayyad Square in the heart of Damascus, killing 2 people on Monday. Syrian state television did not cover the Arab League meeting in Qatar, airing a program on makeup for women instead. Internal disarray. Al-Khatib's decision to quit, which he blamed on the world's failure to back the armed revolt against Assad, also appeared to be motivated by internal disputes in the alliance. It undermined the alliance's claim to provide a coherent alternative to Assad. Liberals saw it as a protest against what they view as the rising influence of hardline Islamists in the Qatari-backed umbrella group set up in Doha in November to replace the ineffectual Syrian National Council. Syria's Muslim Brotherhood, criticized for its grip on the Syrian National Council, appears to be wild as much sway on its successor coalition, which has won wide international backing but has failed to shake an image as consisting mostly of foreign-backed exiles immersed in political infighting. Jane Kinninmont of Britain's Chatham House said Qatar and the other Gulf states had been frustrated that the United States in particular and also European powers had not done more to help the Syrian opposition. The Gulf countries contrast this to the Iraq war, which many of them were quite dubious about, and they see a U.S. that's far less interventionist today, even though there is much greater case for an immediate humanitarian need than there was in the case of Iraq. Also, according to Reuters, NATO said on Tuesday it had no intention of intervening militarily in Syria after a Syria opposition leader said the United States should use Patriot missiles to protect rebel-held areas from President Bashar al-Assad air power. NATO has no intention to intervene militarily in Syria, a NATO official said after opposition leader Muaz al-Khatib said he had asked U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry for U.S. forces to help defend rebel-controlled northern parts of Syria with Patriots. 3 NATO countries have sent Patriot surveys to air missiles batteries to Turkey to protect its cities from possible attack from Syria. On the other side, of course,